Now, during the course of the election campaign, we'll be talking to the leaders of each of the parties represented in the Dáil. We begin with Holly Cairns of the Social Democrats. You're very welcome. Thanks indeed for joining us. I should say we are talking to you earlier than the other party leaders because the timing of this election, from your own personal point of view, is not ideal.
It's not ideal. As if my constituency in Cork South West wasn't competitive enough, and the new role as leader, I have thrown this into the mix as well. So appreciate having the interview early because...
Yeah, you're due in 9 days' time, I think, and best of everybody, I'm sure, wish you the best. Look, what are the practicalities of that? Because, I mean, there's an election campaign going on. There could be coalition talks afterwards. We don't know yet. But what are the practicalities of how you manage that? Yeah,
so it's a juggling act at the moment. But at the moment, so far, so good. And I feel very grateful to be in a very supportive party. It's the only party that I think has more women than men elected in the country. And Cian O'Callaghan, who is the deputy leader, will be stepping into the role whenever that time comes. OK, now let's get on to policy. The three big parties are all talking about tax cuts in various ways, whether it's USC or whether it's anything else. You're not. No. And I think this kind of approach to politics is something that has always, to be honest, kind of bothered me in Irish politics, where you see people promising, massive tax cuts and investment in public services. This kind of telling people what they want to hear and it being a given that might not be delivered. And I think people would like a new style of politics, a different approach, where you know exactly where you stand with a political party when the polling stations are closed, when your vote is cast. What are they actually going to do afterwards? We want to be very clear with the public that our priority is that investment in public services. Giving people back a few euro of their own money, be it through a tax cut or a one-off payment. These are things that evaporate fast, and to actually bring down the cost of living for people, we would invest in what's important, in public services, in health, in housing, in affordable housing, crucially, in climate action, childcare, disability services. And I think there's a huge underestimation of the electorate that they'd like something a bit more straight up, that they know where they stand and they're not being kind of overpromised and constantly under-delivered. OK. One of the red lines you set out for government is you want a full cabinet minister for disability. Now, there is a minister at cabinet with responsibility for disability, Roderick O'Gorman. Yeah, previously disability was in with health and it was known as the poor sister in the Department of Health. Now it's moved to the Department of Children, which, as you know, has so many different things under it. There's children equality, integration, youth, all of these different things. And disability is now the poor sister in that department. And what we see, David, is, there is a massive disconnect in this country because we have, nearly full employment, 500,000 adults living in their childhood bedroom, record budget surpluses and somehow threadbare disability services. Why do we have threadbare disability services in a country that can afford to do better? Because there hasn't been the political will to address it. So we think a senior ministry for disability would bring that political weight to finally provide the services that, by the way, people have a right to. OK, but in order to make room for Minister for Disability, you're going to downgrade the standalone Department of Higher and Further Education, and universities would argue that has made a real difference for them and now they are going to lose out. Our deal breakers, Senior Ministry for Disability being one of them, 50,000 affordable homes, the fully accelerated implementation of Sláinte Care, these are deal breakers for us. How they're done, we know, is up to negotiation. A programme for government, you have to be reasonable about these things. And this is the first election where no party is contesting enough candidates to have a majority government. So we know there's going to be negotiations and compromise about how this is done. There's only 12 ministries, so we're suggesting that maybe higher education going in with education, that makes quite a lot of sense. There's other departments that people, can view as could go back in together, for example, deeper, going back in with finance. There's things like that could be done. That's one of the suggestions. OK. On housing, you have this proposal to zone land with, as I understand it, a cap on the price of houses that would be built on that land or the rent paid. How does that work? So for the best way to deliver, and this is the key thing, because in the heart of the housing crisis is an affordability crisis. So a deal breaker for the Social Democrats is the delivery of 50,000 affordable homes. How do you do that? At the moment, the only way that houses are being delivered at an affordable price is through the not-for-profit housing bodies and local authorities. So our plan is to directly target funding there using the Land Development Agency, giving them the powers to CPO land and zoning that for affordable housing. So that ensures that it doesn't kind of disproportionately increase in value, which is what we constantly see, and that homes can be delivered at that affordable rate.
Yeah, but to be a cap on how much those houses could be sold for later, is that it?
Yes, and that would be linked to, say, the Consumer Price Agency, and the housing bodies that deliver them would be overseeing that kind of element of it. But crucially, that they be delivered at an affordable rate now as well, so around 300,000 in Dublin, for the rest of the country about 260,000, because that's what's affordable, and this is the way to do it. So for us, that has to be in a programme for government. There's 500,000 adults living in their childhood bedrooms. Record levels of homelessness. This should be the bare minimum.
You made that point. Now, as you say, there will be negotiations. There will have to be some form of a coalition. Ivana Bacik has suggested that after the election, Labour would talk with the Greens and other centre-left parties, presumably including yourself, to try and agree a common position to give real weight in those coalition negotiations. Are you open to such an arrangement?
We said time and time again we'll speak to everybody after the election.
But that wasn't the question. The question was whether you're open to that particular arrangement.
It would make sense to speak to parties on the left first, absolutely. But our priority at the moment is trying to get the strongest possible mandate to introduce the changes that we see as so crucial in this country. And, you know, at what point will I speak to this individual person after the election? It's not really our focus at the moment. Our focus is, I think this government's legacy will be one of missed opportunity. The opportunity that these record surpluses represent to address the shortcomings, that is something that they're acting like it's sewn up at the moment, the government parties. They're saying, I want to go first as Taoiseach.
I want this ministry and that ministry. Red lines for negotiations.
Yeah, to get policies into place, not for jobs for the boys. But our priority is that. We think that this election is a choice. They're acting like they have it sewn up, but people can choose a new approach. This approach of trying to buy your vote by giving you back a few euro of your own money, trying to buy the election, and now they're throwing around promises like they were cash before they called it. And I think people would like a new style of politics and a different option. That's what we're offering people, and that's our focus at the moment. And then absolutely, I'd encourage people, vote left, transfer left. We'll speak to all of the parties afterwards. Absolutely.
OK, Holly Cairns of the Social Democrats, whatever about the election, best of luck with the other forthcoming Life event.
Send all the luck for both. I think I'll need it.